But first, leadership of the Liberal and National parties will be decided in the next 2 days, with the results set to shape the direction of Conservative politics in this country for the decade to come.
Senator Jacinta Nampijinpa-Price, who rocked the coalition last week by defecting to the Liberals, has really wasted no time pitching herself and Shadow Treasurer Angus Taylor as the future of the Liberal Party.
Angus, I've been a fighter all my life. I've overcome many challenges. And I think we're in a really good position to come back from this and come back strong. You know, you've got the incredible experience behind you. I've had the pleasure of, having you as a mentor so far in my journey. And I think we have such passion for this country, for our party and for the coalition as a whole. That's what I think Australians need to understand, that we're a team that's prepared to get out there and fight.
Now, of course, many people will accuse Senator Price of disloyalty for defecting to the Liberal Party immediately after the federal election. But she said on Outsiders this morning it was a decision a long time coming.
Look, this is actually something that I wanted to do when I was first elected, but there were some that were preventing me from doing so and put a block in my way of being able to make that choice. And being new to the game, I thought, well, I don't want to rock the boat. I will follow tradition and do as tradition tells.
Look, I really think that Jacinta Nampijinpa-Price is the star factor in all of this, James, to be honest. I can understand where the Nationals are coming from. They're quite rightly upset at her defection. Some say that she did not handle the process correctly or with due process. But realistically, I think that she is a born leader and she's exactly what the Liberal Party needs right now. She's not afraid to speak her mind. I mean, God forbid she actually wants to make Australia great again. And also, I don't know if you noticed there, but when she was speaking on Outsiders this morning, she stood in front of the Australian flag, and then there was like an Aboriginal painting behind her. So it was a nice touch and it wasn't overdone, but you could tell the Australian flag. And that, to me, that in itself, I take a lot of pride in, that the flag was front and centre. She loves this country. She doesn't seek to divide us by the colour of our skin. Prominent in that No campaign, helped get it over the line. And I think that she's really got a backbone in this country. When it comes to the other two candidates, when it comes to Susan Lee and Angus Taylor, look, I'm not convinced, to be honest, by either of them. I think that Susan Lee didn't really showcase herself enough throughout the election campaign. She is obviously of higher prominence, given that she was the deputy leader, so she has got more of a public profile. But what bothers me the most is that the left faction wants her in there, and you can't help but ask a question, is it because she is indeed a woman? Now, if that's the case, that is tiresome, that is bothersome. I mean, you may as well go down the Labor pathway of having quotas if you're trying to just skyrocket somebody into a position because of their gender. And Angus Taylor, on the other hand, James, there were errors that were made throughout the campaign, particularly the Liberal Party's economic strategy or lack thereof. But again, I think that with the addition of Jacinta Price, that could be the boost that's needed. In terms of her defection from the National Party, yes, there was some upset. Matt Canavan especially was pretty ropeable last week, though, as we'll talk about in a moment, he's now put his hand up for leadership of the National Party. So I think the disquiet over her leaving the National Party will quickly be forgotten as everybody moves on. Where I think Jacinta Price really does win is it's personal for her. I was listening to her on Sky News this morning and she talked about the fact that she grew up in disadvantage. But not only does she understand disadvantage, she understands the damage that socialist policies do to the people they're supposed to be helping. And so she spoke from the heart. And that's the other thing about Jacinta Price. It's not political talking points. You get the feeling she's speaking from the heart. She's a genuine politician. And as you pointed out, the symbolism works as well. Yeah. She's a woman, she's Indigenous, she had the Australian flag because she's all about Australia. She also had the Indigenous painting. She's not forgetting her Indigenous heritage. No. She cares desperately about Indigenous people, but she's about uniting all Australians together. Yeah. She personifies the Liberal roots, and they don't just need a new leader, they've got to get back to their roots and to what they're all about. And in Jacinta Price, as deputy, she personifies what the Liberal Party is supposed to be about. And it's interesting, those who support Susan Lee are saying Susan is the right person because she'll bring the party back to the centre. Many people would, of course, argue that under Peter Dutton, the Liberal Party were not out there on the right.
they were pretty Labor-light as it was.
But it started well. The campaign, as we know, started well, where they started putting these policies in together. Yes, we're going to stand in front of one flag. Australia Day is January 26th. We're going to, curb migration. They should have gone further with that. But as the campaign wore on, they just drifted slowly. And that was the problem.
If you thought Peter Dutton was right-wing, boy, I don't think so. What Jacinta Price does is she now marks a line in the sand where the Liberal Party on Tuesday will decide, are we a Conservative party?
Yeah.
Are we going to get back to our Liberal roots, or are we going to continue this flirtation with Labor light? And that's the option they now have. And Jacinta Price has very much brought that into focus.
Well, moderates can't win government, in my view,
That's
at all.
proven.
And that is a problem.
Yeah.
Now, we spoke obviously about the Liberal Party, but leadership of the National Party will be decided tomorrow when Queensland Senator Matt Canavan challenges the incumbent David Littleproud. And like Senator Price, Canavan was out selling his candidacy this morning.
I'm running because I think we have to end the tyranny of groupthink in our country. Over the last few years, a pall has come down on our nation which has not allowed a debate, which has seen any kind of dissent from the prevailing view as somehow disloyal. And I think the Australian people deserve a choice, a proper choice. I don't think we got that at the election because I felt, especially in the Nationals Party, we pulled our punches. Sometimes we explicitly decided to turn the volume down on our party in an ultimately futile attempt to help the Liberals win seats in the city. That strategy didn't work, so we need a new plan.
I think Matt Canavan absolutely hit the nail on the head. Groupthink. What's the difference between the Labor Party and the coalition at the last election? I mean, you had Peter Dutton saying he would do nothing regarding net zero other than continue to support the pursuit of a policy which has only meant pain for householders, pain for business. Matt Canavan is saying the first thing he would do as leader is ditch support for net zero, which we must note the US have ditched support. Even Tony Blair, the former Labor leader of Great Britain, says those who are pursuing net zero are doomed to failure. Under Matt Canavan, again, like with Jacinta Price, voters would get a clear choice and maybe they'd reject the Nationals' message. Who knows? But at least there'd be something to reject rather than trying to differentiate between Labor and Labor light. I like Matt Canavan. He's a conviction politician. Like Jacinta Price, he's fearless. He doesn't mind prosecuting the argument and he's a great communicator. And so we may end up at the end of this week with leadership in both the coalition parties where you've got conviction politicians who are brave enough to argue their case and they've got the communication skills to do it.
Well, this is going to be interesting. And just on the net zero, I think it's fantastic. And also have a look what happened with Spain and Portugal a couple of weeks ago when they were plunged into darkness. So that is the future under net zero. Where this is going to be interesting, though, is how will it work under a coalition agreement? Because I'm not convinced that the Liberal Party would support ditching their net zero goals. I really cannot see it. I agree that it should be scrapped, but I do not think that Susan Labe definitely would not support it, but I can't really see Angus Taylor supporting that either. But who knows with Jacinta Nampijinpa Price. Look, this is going to be very interesting to see how this plays out because, as you mentioned, Matt Canavan was very disappointed by Senator Price's decision. And you can understand because they now lose their majority status in the Senate. But, I mean, this is not a time for disunity for the coalition. They would want to work this out and work it out pretty quick because Saturday sent a very stark warning. The public want change and the public want a real surefire coalition that is actually going to come together and present different policies. But even Matt Canavan said the other day there's an opportunity for the country, for our coalition, for the Nationals Party to run in more seats. If that leads to us breaking up, great, then fine. I mean, the Nationals are propping up the Liberal Party at the moment because the Libs lost so many seats and the Nationals didn't. They only lost that one from Perrin Davies. So they're going to have to get their act into gear pretty quickly, James, definitely.
Yeah, and I think they will, especially with Matt Canavan pursuing that.